That's so frustrating. Three, two, one. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 38 of the Shower Podcast, the podcast where I'm in my shower and you do you. I'm your host, Chip, and let's say today episode was a bit at risk. Because if you have listened to the previous one, let's say that my conditions were definitely not our best. And I heavily underestimated, let's say, the effect of the injury. During that night, I was feeling all, let's say, still good. And for sure, there was still some adrenaline running. And overall, let's say, all the places where I was injured, my hand and also my foot, were still pretty hot. So I didn't feel, let's say, the real pain until the next morning when I was absolutely KO. It was hurting like hell and I could barely walk. So that wasn't fun. And that was, let's say, it gave me the idea for this episode. And I'll try to, let's say, go a bit, into not the details, but explain to you a bit how I felt and therefore why the title of this episode, specifically frustration. So I set two alarms because that morning I had to go to the office, and the first one was just to settle in to make sure that I was still okay. Because again, in my mind, in the morning I would have woken up still okay. I would have not walked properly, but would have been more than fine. The moment that I tried to step, it was absolutely impossible. Like, I could barely plant my feet. I was struggling. So I had grabbed my mop to use it as let's say, as a cane to move towards the bathroom and then come back. And I was like, this is not looking good. I tried sleeping a bit more and didn't help. My hand was hurting like crazy. And I was like, okay, I need to go to the pharmacy. I need to get something. But also getting to the pharmacy was because I was barely walking. And let's say, like a very, very, very old man, I, let's say, took my keys, took my phone, barely managed to get my jacket on, and then went out. Thank God I have an elevator and I was able to go up and down without any kind of issue, and then slowly started walking towards the pharmacy. Also there, I'm very lucky because it's very close. So both the elevator and the fact that the pharmacy was so close made all of this, let's say, incredibly, convenient for me. And this is the first point. In these moments when you are in true need, the fact that you have all the commodities and you are in a condition that permits you to, let's say, truly use the things that on a normal basis you just give for granted, it's insane. So also throwing that out there, don't give anything for granted, because the moment that you need it, you'll be like, thank God it's here. And if it wasn't, you would realize very, very, let's say, immediately, and also in a very heavy way. So what got me thinking about frustration, and let's say it's something that I want to expand a bit, beyond what I had. I mean, it was something minor, even though, again, I was really barely walking. But while walking towards the pharmacy, everybody around me was moving at 10 times the speed. Everybody was going around. Everybody was absolutely going normal with their day. And it really got me thinking. I know you have been used to this, my way of saying, but what if this was a condition that I had every single day? What if I, unfortunately, would have been, let's say, forced to walk like that for God knows how much? In this case, it's been fortunately not even one day, because after I successfully managed to get to the pharmacy, I got some medicine and I started treating it. Even though it had its side effects, I was absolutely again KO during that day, but it really improved, let's say, both my hand and my foot. And already by the start of the next day, I was looking better. And now I am, let's say, in normal conditions, still a bit fatigued, but let's say I'm able to do everything that I need to do. I was able to place the camera there. I'm able to use both my hands. So I'm able to walk. So I'm very happy. But what if this wasn't the case? And I can only imagine, and it at least myself, it gets me thinking, how is it to deal with that frustration? Because, then everything that's around you will start being frustrating, especially when you used to have an active lifestyle. Again, fortunately, I consider myself a pretty active person. I have my lazy days, but I do, let's say, enjoy a lot the moments that I am active. If I have to do sports, if I have to go out, if I have to be active, it always puts me in a good mood. I'm never, let's say, short of, looking to do that. And now that I am, let's say, relegated to staying at home and I cannot do much because, again, I can't put any stress neither on my foot nor my arm, it gets me thinking. And this level of frustration, I don't know. I really don't know how I would handle that. And how I always say, and also many of my friends agree, in those unlucky situations, how I got my injury, I am always extremely lucky, because really it takes this much. And for who is just listening, I'm really showing a very small amount for things to go south. And then the situation gets definitely worse. The funny part is that this exact situation happened exactly 1 year ago. And it happened because of snowboarding, where, let's say that I was a bit too confident in my skills and I decided to go off-piste. And at some point, let's say the snowboard decided that's enough and it pointed itself in the snow, and I, let's say, flipped like a sandwich. And the result of that were almost 4 months of recovery and physiotherapy to recover my knee. And also there, it wasn't fun at all. Even though I have to say I was able to walk a bit more, the problem there was that I could never fully recover, or at least it needed way more time to do that. Here, let's say I'm more or less okay. Or at least in a few days. I really hope that the pain will go away and I'll be able to do everything that I want to do. Fingers crossed. I mean, you will for sure know if you'll keep following the episodes on a daily basis. And I'm really curious. Again, I'm always open, for anybody listening. If you want to share, let's say, your take on frustration, or if you had any kind of event that led to frustration for you. But if there are a lot of topics in which I'm pretty confident, and also a lot of situations, let's say, they don't threaten me all that much, let's say, emotionally. But this thought, it's really something that puts me, in a strange situation. I really don't know how I would react and handle something like this. And I think it's normal, because in any moment that your, let's say, day-to-day activities and ways of doing, and just what you consider, your standard, gets absolutely destroyed, and you are not able anymore to rely on it, you're like, what about now? And sometimes there isn't a response. Sometimes you have to accept it. But I also do believe that in those moments of need, we tend to give our 200% to continue and get back what we have. And unfortunately, this should make us realize that during those perfectly healthy and normal conditions, those are the moments in which we should be striving to do not necessarily more, because again, it's not a race, the better you feel, the more you should do, because you should be grateful. No, it's not about that. That should be the normal condition, and you shouldn't feel necessarily threatened, by a potential injury. Like that shouldn't be the case. But it can be, again, something as mild as you have a fever and for a week or a few days you're absolutely KO. And that is enough, let's say, for most of us, I imagine. I mean, anybody that's listening to this, I am sure that either now or in the recent past, you had a plan that worked and you managed to stick to it only because you were in perfect condition. If something were to happen, what then? So, this is, again, as always, a reminder for myself, but also for you. Make sure to not give yourself for granted, and especially, let's say, make sure that you're able to function at 70%, 80% of what you're able to do, and leave that 20% for anything that might happen in the future. Because if you do every day 80%, you'll be more than fine in case any other day you'll be able to do 0, or just that 20% that you were missing. Having said that, let's say it flowed a bit, but it's something that stuck with me the whole day, and I really was waiting to do this episode. So I think it's going to be, let's say, pretty easy to follow, because, it was absolutely pretty clear in my mind. As always, feel free to leave a like, comment, share. It's really, really appreciated, especially for these kind of episodes where we get a bit more personal. And this was episode 38 of the Shower Podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and see you at the next one.